and a very good Monday morning. It's still a bit chilly yet. It's not freezing, but it's not exactly glorious, sunny, warm weather. Right, so what are we doing here? Well, to replace all of this brickwork, because this is the rear of the trawl boat in, and I've stripped the render, as you can probably tell, and what we found is lots of, move you down a bit, cobbled panels that have been partly removed and bits of broken brick and all sorts shoved in where it should be cobbles. So I'm slowly but surely taking out huge areas and redoing it to put it back to what it was. And then once I've done that, I get all the bricks cleaned up like I've done on the rest of the building and line point it all, so it looks splendid again. Right, so that's safe. You don't need to panic, because that is a row of headers and they're running through into the next skin of the building. So they're fine, they'll hold up all that. There's not a great deal of brickwork above it anyway, but I'll get this section in here, and then once all this is in and compacted, I'll then move to the next bit. And that's the way I'm having to do it, because below where we are now is a pitched roof, so we can't prop anything. So the only way I can do it is to do it a bit at a time. Right, let's crack on. Right, well, the day's cracking on. I've gone over the brickwork with the cut disc, got all the old cement render, sort of smear bits off the bricks. I've done a lot of the cutting out as well. I was waiting on bricks, which have now arrived. So I've just put the last 3 in that bit, and now I'm going to drop down and start taking some brick out further down. Okay, so you can see here, I put my cobble in and I've set a brick on top. Now that brick and that half brick there are just there as a temporary measure, because they're going to hold up this end of the cobble in while I start taking some of these brick out of here, because I need to change these. It's a very, very hard job, this one, but still, we'll get through it. Right, the old plug-in chisel. I have to liberate it. I've been using it as a lining pin, because I seem to have lost one of my lining pins somewhere. Oh. Okay, really gently. Break the seal there. Whew. Like defusing a bomb. See, what's happened here is there's been these great big cobbled panels, and at some stage in its history they've probably started losing some of the cobbles, so they've just chucked an odd brick in here and there, and they've not strung it through, they've not levelled it, they've not plumbed it, nothing. So they're all having to come out and be replaced. It's that bad that the structure itself was weak, and there was a crack running right the way up it, which we've removed by replacing brickwork. Yes, right, well. Of course, going to do so much of this today. It'll have to be left to set. I want some little bits of old lime and bits of brick and all sorts now, just to chuck in there. And what that's doing, it's kind of reinforcing it for me. Because if I just put a great big thick bed on there, it's put a brick on it, it's just going to squeeze out. So okay, now then, that's a full brick running through there, so that's a bit awkward. A bit awkward indeed. I think that one needs to go that way. Be carefully take that one out now. Slide that up. Now bear in mind that's temporary. You know, once I've got these here, I can take that out again and rebed, etc. So don't panic about me just sliding it up like that. We're still not going to get it there because of that. This is what we're up against. So I'll have to trim this one up. Right, put that back under there now. Stuff some stuff in it. I do have some little hydraulic bottle jacks, which would be ideal for this. I must root them out. You know, you can just put one on there and just pump it up and it'll hold all that. They're in that lock up somewhere. Right, so we're not going to put anything on the perps because that's going to come out and that's going to come out. Come on, get in there. All right. Of course, this isn't how you would routinely lay bricks. It's one end down slightly. Bob on. Bob on. So right, what I can do now is get a brick in here. Carefully remove that bit of mortar from there and there. It is rather stressful doing this, although it's not that bad. You know, it's quite solid. Because all this cobbling here I've redone last week. Right, put that chap in there like that. slide him out. Move that one up, and then I know that we're off onto that brick there, like so. Right. So we want now to pack up that cobble in some mortar. The thin trowel, I'll just keep shoving it in there. Basically rebedding bottom of it. And now then. Yes, I think that wants to go back a little bit, like so. Right, so all this end of the cobble's now held up and quite happy there. It can't drop, so I can now proceed with taking some more of these out. Yes, please. Please. Oh. And there you go. That's those out. These headers are running through into the next skin, so that's holding that up. But we'll get some brick in there. We won't leave it like that overnight, and we'll compact it all. And then these headers that are bad, yeah, I think we'll just tidy them up a bit with the old cut disc. Well, it's Wednesday morning. It's chucking it down out there. Very, very heavy rain. So the brickwork restoration is on hold. So what am I on with? Well, I'm doing a little project at home at the moment. We're doing a bit of a kitchen revamp. Now, we're not refitting the kitchen. We're just kind of doing it up a little bit. So this morning, I'm hanging a new door. I've already done one, so I'm now doing the second one. I do know a little bit about wood whittling. My father was a carpenter up until he retired to sunny Spain. So I do know the odd trick with woodworking tools, shall we say. So I'll give you a look through what we're doing with this project today, which is including bits of plasterwork, bits of wood whittling, and ceramic tiling. And of course, it will involve at some stage the horrible job of decorating. I bought this little gadget. It wasn't very expensive, just a cheap one, that kind of make. The reason I bought it was because I had these doors to fit and one or two other bits to be wood whittling with. What a lifesaver. It saves so much work. An electric planer. Never owned one before. I've got a couple of the old manual ones, which were, I think they were my father's actually, and he gave them to me when he moved to Spain. But Yeah, a great little investment. Electric planers. Who'd have thought it? Right, so I'm going to take a bit more off the edge of this door because it's still quite tight. Now we did measure the door, but there isn't one standard door casing. Well, tell you why, there is one standard door casing, the one I fitted here. But the other two door casings that we've got to fit doors to aren't standard, and they're not the same size either. So we're having to plane the doors down to get them to fit. There you go, you can see how it works there. That cylindrical thing spins around, it's got blades in it, and it planes the wood off. A lot simpler than doing it by hand. So we just basically put the door into the opening there, just offer it in. It's never easy when it's an old casing full of bits of paint and all sorts of muck. But we just keep whittling away at it until it fits nicely. Now we can see from the gap down the side here that we're nearly there now with this edge. It is a little bit tight top to bottom. So what I'll do, I'll attack it with the plane again. Now the thing is with that, you've got where these bits come up, what were known as your styles. The grain's running one way, and then you've got this bit, the grain's running the other way. So you've got to be careful when you're doing your planing. So I plane sort of that way, and I turn it over and go that way. Otherwise you're going to rip the edge of the timber off. And of course, we're gonna plane it off the bottom of the door because obviously, you know, you're not really going to see it that well at the bottom, more so at the top. So if you do make any little cock-ups, it's at the bottom where it can't be seen. Not that we're going to make any cock-ups. Right, so we can straddle the door there. Plane on. And of course, always let it stop rotating before you put it down flat on any surface. So if you're on a concrete surface, for example, you're going to knacker your blade. And if you're on a wooden worktop like this or a wooden surface, it's going to plane it. So wait till it stops rotating. Right, now we flip the door over. Easier said than done. It's quite tight in here. Alright, up she comes. There we go. Now with these sort of doors, they're like a hollow door, you know. They're not a solid wood door, they're only a cheap thing. £36 I think they were each from the old B&Q, dare I say. But they're actually a good door. I was quite chuffed with them. But it does have marked on the top, this is the bottom, but it has marked on the top lock. Because inside these doors, it's like egg boxy type stuff, cardboard. But there is a block of wood inside it, which is for your lock and your handles. So you've got to determine where that is and put your lock and handles there. Otherwise, you're screwing into nothing. There you go. Those that don't know that, of course. Right, again, we get the plane. Now, we put the plane on that bit. There's your round spinny bit. So you put that bit on first. So the spinny bit isn't hitting the wood. And then you move down and it hits the wood. Seems to be working rather well. It stopped. Right, so now what we do, we lift it up again, we try it in again, and we keep repeating that until basically it's a lovely fit. And then we start the process of things like putting hinges on. Once it's hinged, I like to do my latches and things once the door's actually on, rather than doing it and then putting the door on. Yeah, I just find it easier that way. Okay. Right. Very tight on the bottom there still. It's in there. Right. Okay, so we're getting near. So our gap on the top there isn't too bad. It's just a case of keep going until it fits. You know, you're not just going to go over it once and it fits. You know, you've got to mess about with it. You go to an old casing, it could be twisted, or you know, it's you've got to keep playing about until you get it right. Okay, well I'll carry on with that and come back to you when I've got a bit more done. Right, so that's now fitting nicely. It's not hinged or anything yet, but you can see nice even gaps around the door, which is what we want. But don't forget, you want to leave a little bit of clearance. So I tend to leave about between 3 and 6 mil. Now you may be a joiner, carpenter, who disagrees, but that's fine. You know, this is kind of like semi DIY. I'm not a joiner. I do have a little bit of knowledge though, as I've explained. So the next procedure now is to mark up where I want to put my hinges. Now I'm going to put 3 onto this door, not because it's a heavy door. I'm using some very lightweight hinges, but the reason I'm using 3 is these egg box doors, as my dad used to call them, tend to bow. So if you've got 3 hinges, one top, one bottom, and one in the middle, that middle hinge you can pull the door in with to get it straight again. So the next procedure is to cut in the hinges, which we shall demonstrate next. Okay, so we've now marked up where the hinge is going. What we've got to do next is very carefully go around the perimeter where we've marked up, making sure you're within the line. And then we want a series of like notchy cuts all the way down. Now this is insetting the hinge. So why do we inset the hinge? Well, you don't inset it. What it's going to do is, when the door shuts to, the hinge is going to bind it, so the door will shut to properly. And we just chop the hinge in so it sits flush with the edge of the door. There we go. Right, so we'll just offer up the hinge to see if it's fitting nice and flush. Which it is, and it's lovely and flush, it's a good fit, it's in line with the door itself. So that hinge is now completed. So we just repeat the process down the door, and then the door is ready for hanging. Right, that's it now, hinged and hung. Had a little bit of difficulty with it. The original casing, door frame, whichever you prefer, isn't in what we call twist. I didn't fit it, somebody else did years ago. So I was struggling a bit. Plus, it's not a true door casing, it's timbers, 5x1, something like that, and they put a bead around it to form the rebate. And that was out of line as well, so I had to take that off, put new beading on into the correct position, etc. Anyway, it's on and it fits lovely now. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to fit the latch and handles. Let's crack on with it. Okay, so this is the latch that I have chosen. Now, it's a good make, this one, it's a Gale. The reason that I've got this particular breed is that they're rather better than some of the cheaper versions you can get in your local DIY stores. They tend not to last that long, whereas these Yale ones are quite long-living, shall we say. So we'll now mark up, cut out for and fit the latch and door handles. Oh, that's the handles. Because these are supposed to be a cottage style door. So I've gone with these. They're actually quite a small handle, but they are rather nice. And the reason we've chosen black is because we're putting a dark grey on the units at the bottom of the kitchen, and she's having like a God knows what it's called, a lighter colour on the top. And black sockets and switches, etc. So it should look quite nice when it's done. Also, I've tiled, which I shall show you later. So our latch, rather nice, well engineered. And it comes with the latch plate. Again, it's a nice thick one and it's well engineered. And they do provide you with a few screws to fit it. Which again, are actually quite good screws, because a lot of screws these days are just junk. Let's show you how it's done. Right, so the first job is to determine where you're going to put your latch and where you want to drill your holes. So I think we'll go in that position now, which is pretty much where the original latch was. So we're now going to mark up the latch plate, the latch. We're now going to mark up the latch. So as you can see, I've fitted it there, flush with the edge of the door. Now that's the back of that plate there, that bit. Oh. Because I need to know that hole there, I need to know exactly where that is, because that's where the spindle is going to go through. So I'll just get my little pen, make me a mark, which is there. Let's double check. That's in the right position. Okay, so we need next one of them and one of them. Because what we're going to do now, we're going to drill a hole in that door. There's the spindle, covered in some sort of gluey, horrible crap. We seem to do that these days, don't we? Cover everything in glue and labels and anti-theft plastics and all that kind of stuff. So you spend half a day trying to get it off. Right, okay, so we've got our spindle there. So check your bit. Make sure that it's big enough to take the spindle, but not too big. You want it slightly bigger than your spindle. Put your bit, centre of the hole, nice and slow. Right, now it's made a hole on the other side, tiny hole, so we now drill from that side. Okay, check our spindle will go through. Yes, it does. Perfect. Right, I've got a temporary screw in there. I'll just take that out. Right, so we've now got our hole. We've got our handles. Pick up the right handle, make sure that it flicks down. Right, so that's going there like that. So we know now that we're going to cover our hole. So the next job is back to the spindle. So we want to put it back on and make sure it's right on that hole we've just drilled, where the hole is on the latch. We mark it up on the edge of the door, the position of it exactly. Right, so then we want a good old faithful set square. Pop it onto the door, like so. Draw a nice square line and one below it there. Because what we don't want to do is overcut the size of the latch plate into the door. It wants to fit nice and flush without any gaps around it. So next, again, we want to make sure that our latch plate is central to the edge of the door. So we just mark it up ever so carefully. And again, we can use our set square just as a bit of a reference line drawer. You can pretty much guesstimate that you're straight by looking at the edge of the door. We're gonna double check it in a sec anyway. Right. You can see there now we've got the shape of this drawn on. Right, so that line there is just slightly too far over that side, so we'll just scribe it down there like that. And we'll double check again. And that's fine. That's fine there. Because what you've got to do is you've got to dig out some of that door, because you want that to be flush with the edge of the door. You don't want it sticking out. Again, a not so sharp chisel, although it should be. And then carefully up the edges there. You've got to be very careful on the edge, because you can damage the face of the door if you tap too hard. Because when you're going up that way, you're running with the grain, so it can split off. So you have to be quite careful there. The chisel will go in much easier as well. So. And then, like we did with the hinge, you can get a rough idea by just placing it on an angle like that, and you'll know whether you're in or not. Right, so again, we need to now go back to centralising this, making sure that we really are in line with the hole for the spindle. And then we need to mark up where this is going exactly. The easiest way really is to put your latch on and just mark on the door where you want to be drilling. Right, so we need to find a bit that is suitably big enough for the latch. So that one there is a 20mm. It's just ever so slightly a bit shy there. Now, the next size up is 28mm, which is well, 28mm might be a bit big, really. So we'll not go with the 28mm. We'll have to go with that, and we'll have to just jiggle it to make it fit a bit. I could do something like a 21mm, but I don't have one. Right, so we need to be central. So before we plough into it, we just want to make sure that it is central, which it wasn't. So try again with that. That's more like it. Right, change the torque on this because it'll not go through otherwise. Take it off hammer too. You'll find when you're using these, if you move from side to side or up and down very slightly, it helps to cut it in. Anyway, it's worked because it's gone in, look. Make sure your latch is the correct way round. You want, that goes against the keeper. Yeah, the latch plate. So you want that flat bit. So your door's here, door casing's there. So you want that flat bit, so, you know, it can't go past that keeper, but when you shut the door, it can because of the rounded bit. Click, like that. And then, of course, you turn your spindle, that goes in, and you open your door. But, of course, you knew that. And if you didn't, you now do. Right, so we can test fit this. Right, so we just need to adjust it ever so slightly. Very gently remove that because you can bend these plates quite easily. So, right, I need to take a bit more off that edge there. So on these, what you have on the back of it, can you see the little lugs where the screws come through? What I like to do is, let's get a big drill bit, I'll just kind of like countersink them in to take that little bit of a flange on the back there, if that's the correct wordage. And I find doing that, they just fit in a lot easier and a lot better. So what we could use, one of them. We'll put that into the drill because we don't need that bit now, we're done with that. Okay, so we know roughly. In fact, it's marked it up on there exactly where those screw holes are on. So right, so that should now sit in nice and cosy, and it actually does. So the next thing we need is the old screws. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a fine drill bit now, and I'm going to countersink the holes with it, because they're a tiny little screw, these, and last thing I want is to chew the head up on them, trying to get them to pull in. So we'll get a fine drill bit. And that will do. Pop it in there. Put on the old readers again so I can see what I'm doing. Obviously your bit needs to be smaller than your screw, you know, the diameter of the screw. That's one in. That's two in, and that's sitting lovely and flush with the edge of that door now, which is what we were trying to achieve. So of course, you know, if I push that two now, it's gonna that latch is gonna go into the hole where the old latch plate was, and that door won't open, and I'll be stuck in here for the rest of the time. So I'm not going to push that two just yet. What we need to do now is fit the spindle. That's it, it's fitted. Nice simple job. Handle. Handle. Right, so it's fine, I can get out. I've got a spindle and a handle. So what we need to do again is get the handle in the correct position so it's nice and straight. You know, you don't want it with a bit of a tilt or anything. And then we need that fine drill bit again, just to run some pilot holes, because you don't really want to be chewing them screws up. Right, somewhere amongst the tools is some screws. Stuck big plastic cardboard glue mass of mess again. Oh, gone are the days when it used to be wrapped in a bit of greaseproof paper, or grease paper should I say. I remember them days. Only because I used to go to work with my dad. Right, now then, yes. He was forgetting. No screw gun for this. We need one of these. Just got to turn it on there. Okay, so we've done one pilot hole. So I'm going to locate the hole now, get a screw in it, and then we're going to use that just to steady the handle while we put in some more pilot holes. Head on that's a bit big. I did have a shorter one here. It's either a slotted screw, these. You just can see with a pilot hole, they go in a lot easier than they would without one. Right, so we want to just make sure it's lovely and straight with the edge of the door. I wouldn't go as far as putting a level on it, for the simple reason there's no guarantee that door is actually plumb. You know, so if you put your level on that handle and you pump it up and the door slightly out, it'll look odd anyway. So, you know, just do it by eye. You know, it's quite simple. Nice sharp bits, they do make a difference. Right. And when you put your screws in, again, you know, for the DIY fan there, you put your screws in, make sure that the slot is either straight down or straight across, and each screw is exactly the same. Because again, it looks more professional. If you've got one sort of that way, one a bit like that, one like that, you know, they're higgledy-piggledy. They don't look nice. So make sure they're all facing the same direction. And not just with door handles. I mean, things like, you know, a light switch, things like that. We seem to be losing a lot of these little traits that we used to take for granted as craftsmen. One more to go, and that's the 4 in that one. And then we obviously whip the door open and do the same on the other side of the door. Get in there. Make sure it's lined up. Lovely. Okay, so that's grand as out now. So you've seen the latch plate go on, and you've seen the handle go on. So I'm not gonna bore you now showing you how to put the screws in this one. We'll come back to you in a short while. Okay, so next is our latch plate. Now this is the important bit. So have you ever been sort of sat there in the lounge or the dining room or even your bedroom, toilet, anywhere? The wind's blowing and you hear your door going, but the door's shut. Well, that's because it's not sat on the edge of that. It wants to be on that edge there. That keeper that we looked at before wants to be on that edge, because that is what holds the door to the casing. Okay, does that make sense? So we've got to determine where it goes. Now we're lucky with this one because we've already got where there was a latch plate. So what I need to do now is to make sure that obviously it's fitting nice and snug and flush with this timber, and that the back edge of the latch plate is in the correct position. Right, so again, not too bad actually, that one, for being flush. It just wants a little bit of a trim, because like I said, there's already been one on there. So we'll give it a trim so it sits flush. I'm going to screw it into the position, and I'm going to try the door, because we may have to bring it either forward or backward. And it's going to be a bit of a trial and error. It's because that's already cut out from the old door. So we need our good old faithful chisel and the old glory hammer. We're just going to trim that up ever so slightly, nothing too major. I think it's mainly filler and paint, to be honest. It's in there. There wasn't a latch plate on it, so yeah, mainly filler. now. Yeah. Right, we'll give that a tap to mark up where the screws are going to go. In position there. Be right back there. Minding your finger, of course. Yeah. Right, well that's marked up now. I don't think you'll be able to see that, but that's marked up now where the screws are going to go. So again, bit of a starter hole there. No, actually went in an old hole. And then we want that countersink bit again, just to deepen it up at the back there. That should allow that plate to sit fairly flush. Okay. Again, this is just a trial. Might not work. We may have to redo this. Maybe in the wrong position. That screw's not wanting to play there because I think there's an old screw in there that's been snapped off. Oh. Try the bottom one first. Straighten her up. Leave that a tap back there. That's better. Right. So let's see if we need to alter or adjust this in any way, shape or form. The only way to do that is to close the door and see if it rattles. Right, okay, so it's rattling. So what we need to do is move that plate that way, which I thought we'd have to do, in all honesty. You know, I didn't think it was just going to screw it up, job done, off we go for tea and biscuits. You know, we knew we were going to be messing about with that a little bit. So I whip the plate off, I'll have to chisel a bit more out of the casing, move it that way, screw it back in, and hopefully that's stopped it going, which is damned annoying when it's windy. Okay, you ready? No annoying rattle in the wind. That's it, that's the door now completed. So the latch plate's on, latch is in, handles are on, hinges are done, it's playing down, it's fitted to the casing. Job complete. Right, on to the next job.